Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
This is A Different Perspective with Kevin Randle. A retired U.S. Lieutenant Colonel, Kevin Randle has been studying UFOs for nearly 50 years. Kevin has investigated some of the most famous UFO cases in the world and has been consulted for dozens of documentaries about UFOs. Considered one of the leading experts into the Roswell UFO crash of 1947, Kevin has written more than 25 books about UFOs, including the recently published Roswell in the 21st Century. Now, here's the host of A Different Perspective, Kevin Randle.
And here we are with another special report from A Different Perspective. After a brief hiatus, I am indeed Kevin Randle. And when Rob says I've written 25 books, I think the real question should be, how many of them have been published? Actually, more than 25, but that's a question for some other time. I'll be joined shortly with Bryan Sentes. This all came about in a discussion on various internet bulletin boards and websites about the Project Blue Book television show, and one of the major critics of it was a fellow named Rich Reynolds. And I suggested he should come on the program and we could talk about our differences of opinion on the validity or the value of that program. And he directed me to Bryan, who we've emailed back and forth a number of times, and he seemed like a reasonable fellow, and I thought, sure, let's get Bryan on the program. So for those of you who do not know, he is a scholar and a poet based in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And Rob and he has had a nice discussion about Quebec just a little while ago. With Susan Palmer, he published a well-received study of flying saucer religions, the most recent version of which is included in the Cambridge Companion to New Religions Movements, edited by Hammer and Rothstein in 2012. As of 2018, he has published 3 trade editions of poetry: Grand Gnostic Central, the Ladonian Magnitudes, hope I got that right, which contains explicitly ufological poems. Don't use big words in these things, Bryan. It trips me up. These are related to chapbook published by Pneuma Press on the Phantom Airship mystery, a poetic retelling of the Phantom Airship flap of the late 19th century. And I think we're going to discuss that a little bit too. And that's itself is a part of a larger epic work. Bryan, welcome to A Different Perspective.
Howdy.
That's all I get. Howdy.
Well, sorry. Hello. Nice to meet you. It's a pleasure and an honor to talk with you, Kevin. If we were on a video version, I'd show you my Kevin Randle library.
Well, I hope it's extensive. And
it's not 25 books, but
and it probably contains none of the science fiction.
None of the science fiction, sadly. But I'll tell you, when I got kind of back into the UFO field back in the early 90s, yours, the book you wrote on Roswell with Schmidt, that was one of the very, very first books on Roswell I picked up and read. Well,
we appreciate it because it earned us probably 12.5 cents.
Well, I guess you owe me a Canadian penny.
Is that way it works? Moving right along, because we've sort of digressed here, I had mentioned, as you heard, about the discussions about the Project Blue Book television show on History Channel, which of course is, I guess, now in hiatus.
Yes.
And I've always found it entertaining. I understood the difference between the drama and a documentary, and that they were bringing drama into it to spice up things a little bit. Although I think in the realm of UFOs, you really don't need to spice things up, but Hollywood always needs to do that. You were of the opinion that it wasn't that great of an entertainment program or that valuable to the UFO field?
No, not at all. This was the sad thing about this series. It was neither fish nor fowl. On the one hand, it could have been a kind of a docudrama, a well-done docudrama. They would have stuck to the facts very carefully and pleased the euphomaniacal out there, as it failed to do. Or it could have been a brand new series, giving a whole new twist to the phenomenon, living up to its own promise to be kind of a Madman meets the X-Files. But it did neither. It does neither. And so, in general, it's sort of a failure of both sort of imagination and nerve, I found.
But wouldn't you say that attempting to appeal to the ufological crowd is a pretty narrow population, and that to make it successful, you'd have to appeal to a much broader spectrum of people interested in it. So you have to bring into it some of that fiction that they brought into it.
Well, and on the one hand, I think you're perfectly right about this, but I think look, they could have had sort of a docudrama, and had it been well done, as you said, UFOs are interesting and mysterious and exciting enough, right? But they didn't do that, and they kind of failed to make it a drama on its own merits, right? And I'm not the first one to point this out. There was a review in Time magazine that actually made exactly the same point very, very early on. So look, on the one hand, you're perfectly right, but on the other hand, I think they're throwing too many sops to the ufological community or those already interested in UFOs, because they seem to be pushing kind of an extraterrestrial hypothesis version, kind of maybe. The representation of the flying saucers and such are exactly what you'd expect for the most part. So there's nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing off base, weird, which the phenomenon itself is weird. And I don't feel that the series itself is weird enough.
You'd like to see more weirdness then?
Yeah, more weirdness, more strangeness, right? Because look, for example, in the Lubbock Lights episode, you have these lights flying over that look kind of like the photographs we have of the Lubbock Lights, but they were given this kind of not weird, but a science fictional sound effect, right? As if it's just an alien spaceship or strange form of propulsion flying overhead. Well, why do you have to do that? Why not make it strange? Why not give the viewer that really unnerving experience that the people who saw the Lubbock Lights must have had, that Gorman himself chasing that little light around in the sky must have had? Take us back to that freshness, that frightening sense of the unusual that was the UFO phenomenon, that created the interest in it in the very early days. But
does it bother you they jump around in time?
Well, no. I mean, I've written a couple of posts about this, and if we think about the so-called Fuller dogfight, right, which is based more or less on the Gorman dogfight, but there are a couple of little things that go in with there. He fires at it, as happened in a later case. He gets pulled up by the light, as happened with the sort of Coyne helicopter case, and he goes crashing down to Earth, which kind of reminded me of the Mantell case. So it struck me there that they weren't trying to sort of so much represent the the Gorman dogfight, but more to sort of present this kind of archetypical story of an Air Force pilot encountering a UFO and dealing with it in various ways, shooting at it, being messed around by it, and finally crashing because of interference.
But in the context of creating a series that lasts for 10 weeks, as opposed to a movie that lasts for 90 minutes or 120 minutes, they had to make some sort of accommodation to kind of drag out the suspense. Do you see that as a problem for the program? Or?
Well, I think they didn't do this very well. I can think of two examples. There's Twin Peaks, which is even before the X-Files, which tried to pull a murder mystery out for a whole season, and it didn't do very well. You have the X-Files, which managed to pull out a mystery for at least 7 seasons. And this was the other disappointing thing about this, is that they seem to give too many answers too quickly. The Men in Black showed up really quickly. We found out that Susie was a spy, I think, in the 2nd episode already. There was, like I say, too much given away too quickly. Not enough mystery, not enough innuendo. Either in terms of the sort of dramatic machinations with that sort of quasi MJ12 group, or with the phenomenon itself.
Well, I know they're going to, in the 2nd season, make it clearer that the group, the quasi MJ12 group, isn't MJ12.
Yeah, that's why I said quasi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that Quinn is not really Ruppelt, but, and I say Ruppelt meaning the one-time chief of Project Blue Book, which I explained for the audience as opposed to you, and the other officers who were in charge of Blue Book at other times. So he's sort of a combination of those people. They didn't want somebody who was pro-ET or anti-ET, but somebody that could fit into the program's context a little bit better.
Well, there was an officer in charge of Blue Book, Quintilla, wasn't it? Or
Quintanilla.
Quintanilla. So I imagine they kind of got the name Quinn from there.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. I think they just picked it up. And well, Quintanilla wasn't, I don't think he was a pilot either.
I don't think so. No.
I think he had a degree in, he had an engineering degree, which the Air Force likes, but then they stick him in what I thought of it by the time they stuck him in there as a dead-end job.
Yeah, it was kind of late in the day.
And kept him there. He entered as a captain, and he finally retired as a lieutenant colonel, I think. So they kept him in there for quite a long time.
See, the interesting thing about the Quinn character is that he is kind of like an amalgamation, right? He's a very original character. He represents a kind of a role or a function, right, of the Air Force person in charge of Blue Book, more or less. Whereas Hynek is, of course, more or less based upon a real person. But I think here's where the ufomaniacs, or the UFO files, as I like to call them, really go crazy, because that's not like who he really was, and they're representing him poorly.
Well, let me break in here because I'm going to have to take a break. So we'll have to do that. I'm joined with Bryan Sentes, whose website is http://skunkworksblog.com. If you want to take a look at some of the things he's talked about in the past. Mine, of course, is www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com. We will return and probably expand the discussion into something more than just the Project Blue Book show when we come back right after this. So stick around.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shaman worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
And we are back with Bryan Sentes, who we're talking about Project Blue Book, the television program. And before we went away, before I rudely interrupted him, he was berating the character of Quinn, I think, or discussing the Quinn that people on the UFO community on the internet disliked, I guess, quite a bit. So would you like to follow up on that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to channel my inner Rich Reynolds here to sort of speak up for him. Because look, on the one hand, if you're a real hardcore UFO file, right, you're going to take great umbrage at the way that the series departs from the facts of the cases along the lines that I've described for the reasons I've tried to give it. But also, I think you're going to take great umbrage with the way that people are represented. I mean, you yourself have remarked how unrealistic it is that Quinn and Hynek got into a fist fight, for example. And of course, there's a great deal of discomfort with the sort of little story arc between Susie and Mimi Hynek. I'm not going to get into that. I think that's
let me just interrupt one here. Part of my commentary on this program began when I was thinking, how do the Hyneks, what do the Hyneks think about the program?
Yes.
And before I started criticizing the program from that point of view, maybe I should learn what they had to say.
Yes.
So I was able to get in touch with Paul Hynek, one of Hynek's children.
Yes.
And talk to him about it. And his point of view was they had been brought in as consultants. They were deeply involved in the program and they liked it.
Yeah, I understand that. Like I said, I'm trying to channel my inner Rich Reynolds to speak up for that part of the community that doesn't like it. I have great problems with it as a piece of television. I find it rather sloppily written. I find there are great plot holes. I find it lacks drama and interest. And sometimes it's just downright silly. For example, in the Flatwoods Monster episode, you had the Evelyn character refer to not the men in black, but the men in hats, for which not she should have been thrown out a window, but the scriptwriter, because everybody at the time was wearing a hat, for crying out loud. You can do better than that. And it was sad because if you go to my blog, not to pitch it, but if you go to my blog and read the first
and your blog is what?
Skunk Works. Yeah, Skunk Works. If you go there and read the first thing about Project Blue Book, called Poor Object Blowback, I talk about the opening scenes of the first episode and how how deft they were. They were very, very complex in a really pleasing way. And as far as I was concerned, the sort of series kind of went downhill from there. As a television series, yeah, I'm just disappointed. I have very high expectations, and it would be nice to sort of see the phenomenon, if not the history, given to us in a new way, right? But of course, the thing is, if you do it in a new way, if you don't throw in the conspiracy theory, if you don't throw in the extraterrestrial hypothesis, then you're not going to be pushing the buttons in the kind of demographic that you want to attract to the show, and you're going to lose them.
But I think they brought in the extraterrestrial. Yeah, they've explained the Flatwood Monster in the way that it was conventionally explained back in 1952.
Yes, that was.
but also they brought in an alien creature in a test tube.
Well, that was a monkey, wasn't it? I think that was a rhesus monkey, a test monkey. It was kind of a little.
I didn't get a good look at it, but it seemed to be that it would be. This was one of the creatures, one of the beings recovered at Roswell, and we eventually get to that point.
Well, that's the other thing I just hated. Everybody knows about Roswell, and you know as well as I do that nobody knew about Roswell in the general public in the way that it is known today until after 1980 with Berlitz and Moore's book. But everywhere, remember what they did at Roswell? Just like at Roswell. That even I can't handle that. I find that really pushy and a real failure of imagination.
But if you're talking about the inside, I think that if you look at the Project Blue Book files, there's absolutely no mention of Roswell in the Project Blue Book files except for one paragraph in a newspaper clipping that is in a different file.
Yes.
But the people, Jesse Marcel, Colonel Blanchard, General Ramey, all of these people involved in it understood what was going on at Roswell, understood what was happening there. So in one sense, the Air Force knew about it. In the other sense, the public knew the weather balloon explanation and it went away quickly. But I think go ahead.
Not to interrupt, but look, I mean, if you think back to the Flatwoods Monster episode with the angry crowd, right? They took great hatred to Quinn because of what happened at Roswell. Then in a later episode, they had a Donald Kehoe character who reminded everyone, well, we all know what happened at Roswell. And in the Lubbock Lights episode too, right? I think it was Quinn turns to Hynek and mentions Roswell again. And
well, I don't have a problem with Quinn mentioning it to Hynek. I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Given who they are in the context of the program, I do have a problem with the townspeople in Flatwoods. They didn't have their pitchforks and their torches marching on Castle Frankenstein, but that was the essence of what happened there. Them bringing up Roswell is inappropriate, especially in that time frame. So you're absolutely correct on that. Let's divert from the program, unless you have a final comment you'd like to make.
No, I mean, in a way, I'm a little sad. I don't have History Channel. The only way I got to watch it was because they had a free preview over here, and I wouldn't mind watching the second season and all. But I just sometimes my eyes roll out of my head, and I got to go looking for them.
And I pointed out to one of the vice presidents in charge of scripted programming for A&E, which owns the History Channel, that a lot of the military stuff, and it's been on my blog, and I made comments to it to Rich blog as well, that there are many things wrong at that. Hollywood take of military operations. They don't understand that, and they could rectify that.
Yes.
Easily, without costing any money.
Oh, they should they should hire you, Rich. Kevin, I'm sorry. Middle of the afternoon. Kevin, they should hire you.
I'd do it for free just for the pure fun of making sure everything was right. But
wouldn't it be more fun if they paid you just a stipend?
Oh, of course, but we're not in the money because everybody who does anything in the UFO field, and the people go against you, whomever those people might be, the skeptics or the true believers. If you say something against either one of those groups, you're only in it for the money.
Yes, I know I am.
Because no journalist is reporting for the money. He's doing it there, I guess, to get his name in the paper or something. I don't know. I mean, the point simply is everybody's in it for the money, for crying out loud. That's a stupid comment. Mm-hmm. Anyway, as I was reading your bio that you sent, you had talked about a poetic retelling of the Phantom Airship flap of the 19th century.
Yes.
So I've been interested in that probably from the beginning of my interest in UFOs. And there's a lot of people who are interested in this airship flap. So you say Phantom Airship flap. Could you explain why you use that descriptive term?
That was what it was called, the Phantom Airship. That was often what it was referred to in the papers, wasn't it?
I guess periodically it was, or the Great Airship, or whatever.
Yeah, so look, I chose as a title, On the Phantom Airship Mystery. And there's a little bit of a poetic play in there because there's the word ship is both a noun and a verb, right? So on the Phantom Air, ship, mystery, on the Phantom Airship, mystery, and so on. That was just the title I chose, and I just chose that from the way it was often described.
You did research into the airship, I take it.
Yeah, I read a lot. I mean, I've got a great big library here, like I guess some people do. And I sort of went through all the books and took all the notes. I kind of would almost want to do it all over again. And then from that, I just put the little stories into lines with a bit of a rhythm. And I sort of, to me, what was interesting was the way that there was a certain pattern set up, a certain constellation set up. So that what was interesting here was not so much what was behind those lights, but that those lights recurred in certain patterns. And those patterns, as John Keel already knew decades ago, is one that recurs again. And so what was nice was to have a little poem about the Aurora airship crash, which I know you don't believe happened. For the purposes of the poem, it doesn't matter whether it happened or not. But it was interesting how that echoes in advance or sort of foreshadows the Roswell crash or other crashes that supposedly happened in the 20th century. And that's what was interesting to me was the sort of the contacts that were made with tall blonde people. That happens again with George Adamski in the 1950s. There was a cow that was kidnapped and mutilated, right? At least there's a story to that effect, and so on. So all these little stories that come back again in the 20th century, that was kind of what I wanted to sort of work with there and set up these echoes and these little rhymes and so on that are sort of a bigger pattern, a bigger mythological pattern as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm going to explore this a little bit further with you here in the next segment because you've said some things that kind of resonate with my beliefs, especially around the Aurora airship crash. And for those interested, I did quite a bit of stuff on it on my blog at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com. Why I don't think the Aurora airship crash took place, why I think it's a hoax. And I was one of the first UFO investigators to actually go to Aurora and talk to the people there. When I was there, people were still alive who'd been there in 1897. So I had some insight to how they reacted to it. So we will come back right after this. There's many fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and if you go to the X-Zone Broadcast Network website, you can take a look at the program and see what might interest you beyond a different perspective. And as I say, it's my blog is www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com, and we will be back right after this, so stick around.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by L.A. Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, After the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
I am back. I have a guest, Bryan Sentes, with me. We're talking about the great airship of 1897 now. And I guess while we were in the break there, I mentioned that I had been to Aurora, Texas, probably before many of the other UFO investigators. And I was there early enough that I was able to actually interview people who'd been around in 1897. Granted, they were children in 1897, but they were living in Aurora, Texas in 1897, and I had a chance to chat with them. Interestingly, a year or so later, their stories changed. And instead of telling me that it was telling everyone it was a hoax, as they told me, and it never happened, and they don't know what people are talking about, suddenly they were witnesses to the airship blowing up.
Isn't that interesting?
The other interesting thing is there were two histories, and I discussed this on my blog at one point, of Wise County, Aurora, Texas being in Wise County. Two histories written within 10 years of the airship crash. Neither one of them mentions it. Now, you would think something of that magnitude, without the CIA to manipulate the situation and the men in black and visiting everybody, you'd think that would be mentioned in the county histories, Wise County histories, but it is not, which leads me to believe it's a hoax. So,
well, there are two things to sort of say in that. In general, one could almost argue that the whole mystery airship, or Phantom Airship, or whatever you want to call it, was just a hoax. Maybe at the end of the day, and I'd have to sort of take the time out to do the digging, maybe it's just all newspaper stories.
Well, here's the thing. I've done this digging.
Yes. Okay.
And what scares me about the airship wave of 1897 is it mirrors the modern era.
Yes.
The aspects of the modern era we have, the cattle mutilations. Well, we have the story from Leroy, Kansas, which turns out to be a hoax. It mirrors the Roswell case and UFO crash retrievals from Aurora. You've got abduction accounts. You have people who are contactees.
Yes.
But on the other side of the coin, there's any number of stories where the people have communicated with the pilots of the airship, and a lot of them said, "Well, we're on the we're practicing for our mission. We're on our way to Cuba to bomb the Spanish," and this was just prior to the Spanish-American War. So you get some interaction with humans who have designed the airship with, I guess, military planning in mind.
That's interesting. I mean, having done the digging. Do you know who owned the newspapers that published the stories about the Phantom Airship mystery?
There were newspapers all over the country, so it wasn't any great syndicates.
It wasn't Hearst in most cases?
No. In fact, I got an email or I got a phone call from a guy in here in Iowa who had read the book Crash When UFOs Fall from the Sky, which is my compendium of UFO crashes, and it mentioned that one had crashed near his town, and it was only like 3 paragraphs. And he was the editor of the local newspaper, which so we had a very nice discussion about that, and he sent me some information. I sent him some information, and once again, I covered the story on my blog here, I think in January. about
Yes.
all of this sort of thing. But that was an independently owned newspaper that may have been associated with an Omaha newspaper, which no longer exists
You see,
or has been bought out.
what struck me at one time was that this would be a very effective propaganda story. So you're heading into war with Cuba, and there's this mysterious Phantom Airship flying around, and either it's yours or it's not. If it's not yours, you've got reason to be afraid. And then, well, who's going to defend you? Well, the American army will defend you. If it's yours, it's a sign of your superiority. So it's a win-win situation as a story as you head into a war with Cuba, or with Spain actually.
But I'm not sure that was a theme throughout a great deal of the articles.
No, it wasn't.
You know,
This was never ever said.
Well, I've got a copy of the article somewhere in my files. I'm not sure whether it's the Fort Worth newspaper or the Dallas Morning News, because I hunted both morgues looking for stories.
Yes.
But it was a story from, like I said, in Texas, where the guys were practicing for their mission to bomb the Spanish in Cuba. But that was like, that wasn't a big theme throughout all the airship stories.
No, what I'm saying is in a more general sense, right? The public hears about these stories. There are going to be at least two different responses. One, let's say they take it seriously. I mean, one response will be, oh, it's just a hoax, what a joke. On the other hand, it might be, oh, there's something very strange and mysterious going on, or it's a sign of Yankee ingenuity, right? And that's the kind of feeling that you want your populace to go into as you're preparing for a potential war with a nation as powerful as Spain at the time.
And you can take that parallel into the modern era as well.
Oh, yes.
When you get into 1947, which was 50 years later, you have the same sort of thing. We don't know what these things are. They're invading our airspace. We can see from the records that the U.S. military didn't know what the things were, and they were very concerned about that. If it was something that the Soviets had developed or something like that, then we are behind the eight ball in that respect. But if it's not Soviets, then where did it come from? Whose is it? But you see the same sort of worry and paranoia kind of running rampant through the military at the time, but also the population as well. We've got to resolve this in some way that'll stop a public panic.
Yes, that was, of course, the great fear. There'd be kind of a war of the worlds response. And, of course, all the communications lines would get jammed up and confusion would reign. And, of course, this speculation is one that comes right down to the present day. I'm thinking of Mark Pilkington's Mirage Men. I'm thinking of Jacques Vallée's book Revelations, which doesn't try to equate the UFO phenomenon with man-made airforms, but points to the ways that the story has been used by intelligence agencies and various militaries to conduct various sociological experiments and to perhaps use in military operations. We know, for example, that in the First War, the Germans projected an image of the Virgin Mary on a smoke screen in front of the French trenches to kind of freak them out. And so if there were an Air Force that had a kind of an airform that resembled a flying saucer, this could be used. It doesn't have to be armed, it doesn't have to be very effective, but it will certainly cause someone to think twice before shooting at it, as opposed to it being, say, a helicopter with a red star on it.
But people did shoot at it.
Yeah, this is the irony. Sometimes with a metallic ping, sometimes not striking anything. There's so many different stories. I mean, we can think back to the Iran story from 1976, I think, where the jets stopped operating.
Well, the electromagnetic effects inhibited their attempt to engage the object.
Yeah.
But moving back to the Great Airship, is there any stories from that time that you found particularly appealing or particularly interesting or particularly possibly truthful?
Well, I'm not too sure about truthful offhand. I mean, the one thing that's in terms of its literary richness anyway, and you might appreciate this as a science fiction writer, is the Aurora crash. Because just like with Roswell, there was a reported little mutilated body. Just like at Roswell, There was a little notebook found in strange little purple hieroglyphics, just like the hieroglyphs on the different, I think, little I-beams that they found at Roswell. And really funnily enough, they threw the wreckage down the well, right? Which of course rhymes with Roswell quite nicely.
Never made that connection.
I mean, I don't even have to try very hard. I mean, because the whole story is already literary poetic enough. I wrote a little blog post called Twining Weaver Curtain. These are all names of people involved with Project Blue Book. Or better yet, Thomas Mantell, flying over Godman Air Force Base on January the 7th, which is Ukrainian Christmas. I mean, you couldn't, if you wrote this as a science fiction novel, the editor would say, oh, come on now, that's too heavy-handed. All right? Anyway.
I was just going to say, I think Mantell actually crashed way south of the Godman Army airfield.
I know, but he flew from the Godman airfield, did he not?
He was heading toward it, and he was in communication with them.
Yeah, there we go. But I mean, Thomas Mantell. What you see? What could he tell us? And would he lie like a lying Thomas? And so on and so forth. Anyway, but the Aurora crash is a sweet deal.
You took it into a really literary arena.
That's the job, man. I also I'm an English teacher too. That's how I make my bread. That's what I'm in for the money.
I thought the teachers just did it for their love of teaching.
Oh, I love my students. I like most of my students most of the time dearly, and I do get very well remunerated. I got no complaints, but I'd much rather be talking about this sort of stuff with you
and get paid for it
than pulling teeth sometimes. Yeah, but here let's turn this around a little bit. From the Phantom Airship, are there any stories that strike you as particularly compelling or persuasive or real or truthful?
Well, I'm going to answer that question after we take a break.
Very good.
We're running up against the break here, and I can dodge the question at least for a few minutes that way.
Cool.
Once again, it's www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com, and the other is skunkworksblog.com. Bryan Sentes, who is written, I guess, poetically about UFOs, for those who are interested. The latest book that I've done is an update of Case MJ12, which is a re-examination of a material that came out a decade and a half ago in a book I'd done, Case MJ12. There was a review of it on Amazon, which kind of annoyed me, where the guy says, well, this is all old information. I'm thinking, yeah, guy, take a look at the copyright date of the book. So that book is out, as well as Encounters in the Desert about Socorro. We will be back right after this and finish up the program talking about my favorite UFO cases. So stick around.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. SIMULTV.com.
And we are back for the final segment. I'm joined by Bryan Sentes. His website is skunkworksblog.com. There's fun stuff on there. Take a look at it. When I forced him to be quiet so we could take a break, he was asking me about, I guess, my favorite UFO sightings cases.
Sure.
and you're gonna follow on with that, then I take it.
Yeah, let's follow up with that. I mean, especially from the airship, but maybe there's some. Yeah.
Well,
what about that 1897 wave? Because that's an interesting thing. Because on the one hand, one could make a case. You might disagree, having done more of the research than I have. That's for sure. That a lot of it was just a way to sell newspapers. But is there a case there that really strikes you as being the real thing?
In 1897?
Yeah.
No.
No, isn't that interesting?
And Jerry Clark, who just had his third edition of his massive UFO encyclopedia come out, and it's cost like $8 billion. But it's huge and massive and worth every billion that you spend on it. He and I disagree. He thinks there was a core of solid sightings that came out of California in 1896, in the fall of 1896, just before winter was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Notice how I slipped that in there. And I disagree. I don't know what inspired them to come up with this cockamamie story of somebody with an airship. But I guess if you look at the time, and there's a lot of discussion in the scientific literature about flight, heavier than air flight, lighter than air flight. They're talking about dirigibles and blimps and all of that sort of thing. And so that may be sort of the reason it popped up in the time it did, and the people claiming, well, I built this airship. And actually it came, the original story was that some guy had built it.
Yes.
And he was going to be flying it around in Southern California and that sort of thing. And that never really happened. And then it spread into the Midwest and the South. And I know that there was a group of telegraphers in Iowa who got involved in it. And what they would do is one telegrapher in one town would send out the message over the teletype that the airship just went over town and it's heading to the south. And the guy next town to the south would say, it just got here and it's now heading toward the west. And they kind of kept it alive that way. And there was a story from Burlington, Iowa, which I think it was Burlington, where the newspaper actually was launching hot air balloons, like they did in the 1960s and 70s to simulate UFO sightings. Okay, and they would talk to people, and one guy said, "Yeah, I heard strange discussions coming from this airship."
Yes.
And the reporters were launching it, and it for the very reason you say, to sell newspapers and get people interested in talking about it.
But we can turn this around and say, look, if it wasn't a real kind of UFO flap, as it were, then why does it have all the sort of common elements that we see repeated after the Second War? It bears all the hallmarks of a flap, right? Number one, it has, like you say, crashes, mutilations, contacts, hoaxes as well, right? Debunkings as well.
Oh, and a sighting of Venus. I think the Omaha sighting that's talked about with that was seen in the West with this big glowing headlight on it, that faded away, that had to be Venus.
Okay. But also the fact that again, the airship was just one step ahead of the aeronautical technology of the day, which is also another common feature that we have now. In the 1920s, there was actually a flying saucer that was sighted with a little Italian flying it, and it had rivets. And then, right? And then just as we're having nice jet aircraft coming out, they come out nice and smooth. And as our own technology picks up, they're just one step ahead, almost as if they're teasing us along.
Well, if you want to go along with that, if you take a look at the occupant sightings from the early of the modern era, they're wearing spacesuits, they're wearing helmets,
Yes.
they're wearing apparatus, and then when
Yep.
we move along, pretty soon they're walking around in our atmosphere without any problems at all. They've developed an ability to breathe oxygen, I guess.
Those
So
cunning devils.
but the point is, it's sort of evolved from the Buck Rogers idea to something where they don't need the apparatus to breathe in our atmosphere. They've conquered that problem, whatever that problem might have been.
So what does that imply about the reality of the phenomenon, if there is a reality?
The thing that frightens me most, and I've said this before, is the fact that the 1897 airship flap mirrors the modern era flaps to a great degree, because we have all the elements in 1897 that we found after 1947, 50 years later. We find all of that stuff, and that needs to be something that worries UFO researchers, because if you say the 1897 airship stories are bogus for whatever reason, that they're not alien creatures coming down, then what do you say about the stories that came out after 1947? How can you justify a different opinion? One is terrestrially based and the other one now is extraterrestrially based.
Well, we know for some people it's not a problem because they think it's all bogus, right? I'm not one of those. I'm undecided, but I like Jacques Vallée, for example, who I rely on perhaps too much. There does seem to be some cases which point to a very genuine phenomenon, which is not well understood at all, which is different from the Hessdalen lights, for example, which seem to be something else. There are cases that you know even better than I do, where there are ground traces, radar reports are one thing, multiple sightings another thing.
Electromagnetic effects, some interesting photographs, instrumentality involved, being seen through either binoculars or telescopes or on radar scopes.
At White Sands, for example, in 1947, there was a theodolite measurement made.
No, it's 1949, and it was Charles Moore. Charles Moore, the great mogul guy, who was involved in it. From Array, New Mexico, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the unidentifieds in the Project Blue Book file. So we have a real disconnect there. Charles Moore saw a real flying saucer, and reported to the Air Force, and then later says, "Well, I launched the Roswell case with the Project Mogul balloons," even though the documentation said there was no flight on the date that he claims he launched it. So
yes, so this is what makes it all so interesting. On the one hand, there is a very big sort of social aspect, as the people who like the psychosocial hypothesis, right? That it's all just a kind of a science fictional imagination, misperceptions, and so on. There's that aspect to it, without a doubt. But there is also very, very compelling, very interesting, very brow-scratching events that have occurred. And that's what keeps the phenomenon alive.
And I think there's some of the cases, there are no terrestrial explanations that really fit all the information that you have. And I again think of Level Land here, where you have the craft interacting with the environment. You have witnesses at least 13 different locations reporting independently everything that they saw, which is in essence the same thing.
Yes.
So you look at that and you say, well, there's no terrestrial explanation that we're aware of. The Air Force tried to explain it as ball lightning, and I always thought it was kind of funny. Here's a theoretical construct, ball lightning, that they didn't understand in 1957, used to explain something else that we don't really understand. Kind of a silly thing to do. Well,
you're leading into next week's show, you cunning devil. Because, of course, you'll be talking with someone who believes that UFOs are from the future.
No, that's in 2 weeks.
That's in 2 weeks. Forgive me.
Yes.
Yeah, but again, to one unexplained explained by another unexplained.
Well, yeah, but his theory is interesting. If
at least it accounts for the humanoid aspect of the so-called ufonauts.
Yes, and the thing is, we've talked about the time travel aspect of it. I've talked about it before. I've always said it's kind of my favorite explanation because it's more fun than some of the other explanations being offered.
Well, we'll have to talk again later because one of my hobby horses, and I'll plug my blog here, is precisely the kind of assumptions that are behind the extraterrestrial hypothesis and the anthropomorphisms, the anthropocentric prejudices that underwrite the notions of intelligence, non-human intelligence, technology, and so on. And I find that much more worrisome and compelling than the possible truth of these theories. But that we need another show for that one.
Well, yeah, and we can explain some of that stuff by postulating alien race trying to interact with the humans. But that's, like you say, that's for another show. And we're just getting right out of time here. We're right up against the end of it. Bryan, this has been more fun than getting dirty.
Well, I'll go take a shower right now.
Your blog is skunkworksblog.com. I keep wanting to say Skunkworks Blogspot, but skunkworksblog.com. Take a look at it. There's some interesting stuff there. The book on the Phantom Airship mystery, it's a poetic retelling of it. I'm not sure how that works in this environment, meaning the people who normally listen to the show. But thank you so much for taking some time to join us. And you'll come back?
Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, as Bryan mentioned, we've got some shows coming up. Next week, we're going to be talking to Mike McMaster. He was right. Mike McMaster is the guy, the time travel guy. He is coming up next week. I looked at my calendar wrong. His book has just come out. It got some play on the Fox News channel, and I'd already contacted him about coming on the program. We'll be talking about aliens or future humans coming back. A week after that, we have Terry Lovelace, who is an abductee with an interesting story. So we've got some interesting shows coming up in the future. We'll get back with Calvin Parker. There's some things that we wanted to explore with him we didn't get a chance to do. As I say, take a look at Roswell in the 21st century if you want to know where that investigation stands right now. Encounter in the Desert about the Socorro UFO sighting. I think I've put together some information that was not generally known that gives it a little more emphasis, and we will be back in probably 167 hours with another program. So thanks for sticking around with us for this long.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by L.A. Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.